Well, hello, that's me again. Today is the 8th of February. It is Wednesday, I believe. And there are few tactical, I would say, issues we have to discuss, and then I have one personal issue to address. But before we go anywhere, and it's remarkably how symptomatic that this morning, Seattle time, somebody from Germany wrote some kind of accusation of me that I'm being absolutely non-objective towards Germany and German people. And obviously, I understand the position of the man or whoever he or she is. But let me start with this simple thing to explain. When I talk about countries and nations, I never use any kind of derogatory terms, and I never base myself something which is merely anecdotal, basically information about the nation. So let me start addressing to this thing that, oh, we Germans are so, innocent, we have been, brainwashed by the United States, but still, mind you, pay attention, have been brainwashed. You allowed yourself to be brainwashed. But then again, we go into this, so to speak, neck of the woods about Germany and Russians. The German people really not that, bad, that they don't view Russia as the enemy. Actually, they do. And here it is, for people who really continue to do this argumentation, so to speak. I'm really getting sick and tired of this whole thing. You know what? It's not us, or, we just never did it, and here it is. This is Deutsche Welle in Russian. It was a couple of days ago, and it's in Russian, and it's Deutsche Welle, and it states that about 82% of people of Germany call Russia as the country which is most dangerous for the world and on the planet. Where did they come up with this idea? Because obviously the first argument from many German friends or people who actually don't like me in Germany, which is normal, I can live with that, will be like, oh no, it's Deutsche Welle, it is the CIA funded, which it is true. I mean, most of the Germany media are prostitutes and some horse paid for by all kinds of the intelligence organizations. But, wait a minute, it's not Deutsche Welle. Actually, here is the proper reference to the poll which was conducted by this organization, which is this. This is Zentrum für Strategie und höhere Führung. It was done this January, and as you can see yourself, you can easily find this poll, and 82% of Germans consider Russia as the main threat to the peace on the planet. I mean, you cannot deny this, and this report, which is, I'm not good at Germans, except for some, other things which I'm not going to go in, but it's called Sicherheitsreport.net. You can go out there and download this, and you will see yourself that majority of the population of Germany views Russians as a threat, and they just don't like Russians. I'm sorry, it is truth. And now when this argument goes that, oh, Germans are against sending tanks to, for example, to Russia, to Ukraine. Well, I mean, they maybe are against it, but it doesn't change the fact that they do exercise a really serious set of the anti- and Russophobic attitudes. And the latest poll, again, it's fresh. It's like 2 weeks ago. And speaks volumes, basically. Everything we need to know about how the public opinion in Germany is formed. And doesn't matter if they want tanks or not. Obviously, they do not want, actually, to send tanks there for pretty selfish reasons, because they don't want the war to start, and those aggressive Ruskies attack those peaceful and wonderful Germans who just, want to live in their multi-culti, multi-gender, green society, and that could be the real reason. So, and nothing I can do about it. These are facts, and you cannot misinterpret them anymore. Even if it's not 82%, let's say it's 79, it's still majority. Even if it's 60, it is still majority. So, and in this particular case, it doesn't matter how much you spin this fact, the fact remains. So, Germany is acutely Russophobic nation, and they hate Russians, and simple as that. Well, if they are afraid, well, that's another issue. They probably are, but Russians are not there to satisfy everybody's aspirations and be nice to everybody's feelings. And that's what it is. Now, let's go now to a little bit other things, which, by the way, still Germany related. Popular German Focus magazine publishes this. Der Westen will Putin ökonomisch in die Knie zwingen und scheitert grandios. Well, that simply states that the West and Putin's strategy basically brought the Western economic sanctions and economic war on Putin to a complete grandiose failure. Well, what can I say? I warned about this for years, that they don't understand, those people who do the strategies, so to speak, in the West. They don't know what they're doing, and again, because they're miseducated, misinformed, they're completely lost in their reality. And now that they understand that something is going really wrong with Russia, in terms that instead of collapsing, Russia is actually exploding economically and technologically, this is like the worst case scenario for them, obviously. But then again, can you imagine explaining to some guy from some shitty German, French, or American Ivy League or Oxford in UK, program in literature or political science what real economy is and how wars are fought? It's a waste of time. You cannot explain it to them. They don't have actually all those instruments, so to speak, the cognitive instrument, cognitive tools. They don't have information. And then, of course, in the end, as I am on the record, United States, for example, has to continue with the people like these Russian experts, quote unquote, I'm being facetious, of course, here, like Garry Kasparov, Masha Gessen, Julia Ioffe. That's kind of the parasites, media and grand parasites from all kinds of the outlets in the United States, who tell all kind of bullshit to American policy and decision makers, who what they want to hear. And what they want to hear, they want to see those, nasty subhuman Russians, crawling on the knees and asking for, begging for forgiveness. While in reality, actually, quite opposite is happening. And don't tell me and don't tell anybody else that I didn't warn about it. Again, I wrote a number of books about this, that they have no clue what they're dealing with, including in the warfare. And here we come to the, so to speak, tactical minutia. There is a guy, and again, please, make no mistake, when I say something about nations, I do not, I do not try to insult them. I'm just saying the fact as it is. For example, if somebody tells me that Soviet Union couldn't produce their good toaster or good car, it's absolutely true. And I always say Russians have their hands, stitched to the wrong parts of the body when it comes to toasters and cars. Of course, that changes now, but I mean, it is what it is. So, and here we come to this important, very serious country of Bulgaria, which was known actually in 80s primarily for massive production, or for the Soviet Union primarily, of the canned vegetables and fruits and things of this nature. And of course, they were one of the first who picked up on the IBM's projects in 80s and started to produce the knockoffs of IBM computers called Pravets, and they were very popular in the Soviet Union actually. So that's Bulgaria primarily. Obviously they don't have anything like this, but they have many people who are Russian experts nowadays. I stumbled absolutely accidentally on this thing. And it was yesterday, I believe. No, I'm lying. It was on January 19th, and it was some guy, military aviation history. So yeah, the people who have no clue. And they invited this dude. Look at him. The name of this dude who explains why the Russian air industry is kaput is Mr. Dobrev. Stanimir Dobrev, whatever his name, is actually the author of some. I went there, I read it in International Review, whatever it is, of some piece of the laughable paper called The Reality of Russian Military. And if you look attentively, if, for example, on the sources he's using, he's a classic product of the former Warsaw Pact people who basically changed their loyalties. He went out to study some computer science in University of Sheffield, and evidently for some reason it makes him a military expert on Russia. He is not. He's typical bottom dweller and shyster who gets around all kinds of the internet outlets, and he evidently has no clue what he's talking about. Well, he obviously doesn't understand what commercial airspace, for example, is, because he never worked there. He has no clue what he's talking about. I do, actually. I worked for many years in the tier 1 subcontractor of Boeing and Bombardier, and I ran the laboratory there which dealt with the materials which go, and you probably, again, those who fly those Bombardier and Boeing planes, there are probably some seals of my approval for many parts of those planes. But apart from that, evidently, this Stanimir Dobrev, or what is his name, this is what he is. He is wrote something, is a writer for International Review. He has a bachelor's in computer science and has attended a master degree class in innovation and technology from Sheffield University. He has ample experience working with clinical trials and telecom operations on multiple levels, and his primary work focused in business process optimization and enterprise software solution integration. So basically the guy has no clue what actually military is. So, and yet he also starts to talk to this guy about the Russian aviation industry being kaput. And I looked up further on his activity. I mean, good God, I mean, he is Bulgaria already produced many people who actually just plain simple enemies of Russia and Russian people. So, and this is another case which is relative to, for example, or pertinent to the situation with Germany, that, oh no, we're nice, we are, we are Russophiles in reality, but those people do not allow us to do anything. Yeah, and you consistently vote for all kinds of the governments which are basically bringing the country to the ruin. I'm sorry, guys, that's your choice. And when, of course, when you have this guy like Stanimir Dobrev, who has no clue what Russian air industry is, aerospace industry is. I do, for example, but then again, I'm 60. I have among my circle many people who are very serious import and don't provide bullshit. But what do I know? But of course, they continue to basically speak about this narrative, and Mr. Dobrev is obviously a classic provider, conduit for this narrative that Russia is collapsing and, well, is about to collapse and sustain the horrendous military defeat, which of course is absolutely, I mean, the pinnacle of cretinism of people who do not want to face reality. But you know what? Even for such sewer as the New York Times, the reality is beginning to kinda dawn on them, and they suddenly start writing yesterday that outnumbered and worn out Ukrainians in East brace for Russian assault. Well, what can I say? Obviously, people in the New York Times, and I am on the record, most of the American or Western journalists are people without ethics, morals, any kind of redeeming human qualities. They still write this crap about some waves of soldiers and conscripts, well, of course, not understanding what actually they are projecting, what is happening other way around. It is the remnants of the armed forces of Ukraine and huge number of the volunteers, which are cadre NATO soldiers, who have been thrown against Russian weapons, and Russian infantry basically goes and mops up. And that is why when you look now at the kill ratios, it's basically 15 to 1 in favor of Russia, but hey, but even New York Times, which is sure, basically admits that it's over. And here we have the other situation. So obviously this great, wonderful country of United Kingdom suddenly wants to provide the those fighter jets to Ukraine. Well, now the Spectator comes up with the idea and explanation why the West is reluctant to give Ukraine F-16. Listen to this basically argumentation and justification why a significant majority of people in Europe and the United States want to see Ukraine emerge victorious and at peace on its own terms as soon as possible. By the way, it's going back to the Germany's issue, which is absolutely true. Majority of people in France and United Kingdom, in Italy and elsewhere, they want to see Russia defeated, which is, of course, sure, yeah, wet dreams. I mean, people evidently have ejaculations, even in the, pretty much solid age. And look at this. This is what we have. And they continue to explain that why it is so difficult and why there is a horrendous situation with the Russian air defense because even the full might of NATO air power would require serious campaign at a scale to degrade Russia's integrated air defense systems and would take losses doing so. Such suppression of the air defense of Russia and destruction of enemy air defenses requires hundreds of combat aircraft with very complex mission planning, weaponry, aerial refueling tankers, sophisticated surveillance and reconnaissance aircraft, and specialist training and practice to be viable. Well, yeah, it's true. Of course, if you look above this thing, there is another thing which they're highlighted in yellow, which shows spectators not understanding what is happening really. For example, they are talking about AGM-88 HARM missile, and they talk about Russian KH-X31P, which is, of course, they say that, yeah, we don't know about the use of those anti-radiation missiles, but, well, we know that anti-radiation missile HARM, which have been provided for Ukrainian, whatever is left, Air Force, has a dismal performance. However, they do not understand that, however, if the SAM crew, surface-to-air missile crew, detects the missile being launched, they can generally avoid being hit by turning their radar to passive mode, so it stops emitting energy that the missile can detect. This is what actually anti-radiation missiles do. They do go on there, and they lock on the emission, including, by the way, on the electronic countermeasures, by the way, which is the disturbance. And the problem, of course, with this statement is the fact that actually Russia already is using their X-31PD, which even if you turn off your radar, doesn't matter. The X-31PD, which is the increased range, it has the broad band head and the basically visor, what is called, and it can lock and continue to fly even after the radar is turned off, and of course the inertial navigational system, which is on board, including the, if need be, some of them they fly by GLONASS. It wouldn't matter. You will have very little time to, even if you turned off the radar, to escape, because obviously Russians talk about this thing like this. It's this is the news, and this is the news from TASS yesterday. He's talking about the new versions of their this X-31 anti-radiation missile of Russia, and already they were talking about that in October 2022, the sources in the military-industrial complex, they already stated that this item, so to speak, this missile already showed itself astonishing effectiveness of 98%. And by that time, several dozens of those missiles have been used, and this is outstanding success rate. And they didn't specify at that time what was this, older versions of X31P or the newer versions of X31PD, which was, of course, looks like this. This is in Russian, and as you can see yourself, this is the warhead and the processing and lock mechanism of the radar head of this missile. And as you can see yourself, the PD, X31PD, has the range of 250 kilometers, and it's Mach 3 plus missile. So yeah, if you try to turn off your radar, and if you are not mobile, it makes no difference whatsoever unless you want to run away from your air defense complex, because it will be hit. And this is just one of the examples of how people do not understand what is going on, because Russia is now placing and deploying there an astonishing, it's just absolutely mind-boggling variety of the high-precision weapons, be them X31PD, be them new types of the anti-tank missiles, and any other missiles, including, of course, strategic cruise missiles, be that X101, 3M14M, and it just list goes on and on and on. And most of those that equipment, we're not talking about the long-range cruise missiles, which performed brilliantly already in 2015. It performs really well. And here comes this other issue. So, and this is again relative pertinent to all this the tank Abrams and Leopard 2 and Leopard 1 being delivered to Ukraine. Here's the small thingy, and this is yesterday, I believe, was it? No, 2 days ago, February 6th. RIA News reports that for the needs of the special military operation, the manufacturing of the smart shells, smart munition, is known as the artillery shell Krasnopol, have been increased several fold. And they are getting ready as one of the means of the effective annihilation of the Abrams and Leopard tanks. And what is Krasnopol? Krasnopol is the laser-guided maneuverable munition. Here it is. And its range reaches 20 kilometers, while the group, whatever it could be the group of the special forces, it could be just simple frontal units, or it could be the drone, which will illuminate with the laser enemy tank or any other positions, and that allows this Krasnopol shell to guide itself with extremely high precision to whatever is needed to be annihilated. It is a magnificent shell which already proved itself extremely well, and you can paint or you can illuminate the target using the special laser for this. For this shell, you can illuminate it during the day, something like up to 5 kilometers away, during the night up to 4 kilometers away. So it's just the done deal, basically. And even if you have the laser painting, so to speak, the sensors on your tanks, for example, which you will not have on the something like this old junk Leopard 1, you might get something on Challenger. It won't matter, because obviously the shell itself is guided, and it guides itself on the terminal, which is terminal, I don't know what it could be, something 2, 3, 4 kilometers, and it hits moving targets extremely well. So, and Russia has plenty of those, and it looks like this whole idea that Russia is running out of things kind of have been a little bit, forgotten as of lately, because Russia produces everything what she needs, unlike Mr. the Dobrev speaks bullshit about what he doesn't know. And then, of course, we get to the issue of the Spectator and this F-16 or whatever story, or even Typhoon fighters. I would remind you guys that even in 2019, Mr. Rachmanik of RAND he explained that all this, suppression of enemy air defense is bullshit, basically, when you deal with Russia or China, because we lose a lot of people, we lose a lot of equipment, we usually fail to achieve our objective of preventing aggression by the adversary, RAND analyst David H. Manning told a security conference on Thursday in 2019, which was in March, and the U.S. military gets its ass handed to it in World War III simulation, because obviously Russia has all means. In fact, these are the best means in the world of the long-range standoff weaponry to wipe out any kind of the airstrip or air base which exists anywhere in Europe. So yeah, let them try. And obviously the attempts of Great Britain to supply something to Ukraine. Sure, let those pilots, NATO pilots, no, there will be no Ukrainian pilots, let them fly. And let them learn first-hand experience what captivity is, if they survive, of course. And the question is not only that they do not understand what their dealing is, and that's the catastrophic problem with all those think tankers, all those strategists, all those people from Ministry of Defense of UK or from Pentagon. They do not understand, well, now they begin to understand that basically what they're facing is just they have no means to fight it. And when we talk about especially suppression of the enemy's air defense, they forget another thing. Unlike Iraq or Afghanistan, by the way, Russia has a very viable air force. And in fact, this Air Force, unlike it is U.S. Air Force, this Air Force scored truckload of hits on the fairly capable Air Force of the Armed Forces of Ukraine in the start of the operation. And of course that hurts the butt of all those experts like this guy who invited this Shyster Dobrev, or all those, what's his name? I made the even video dedicated to him, whatever, some Croatian amateur, Binkov or whatever the hell his name. Yeah, it hurts them the most because they all think that for some reason West has the best air technology. It doesn't. And that's the issue which many people cannot even comprehend how to calculate. I do. I know how approximately operation calculations and basically the coefficients of the effectiveness will look like, how the probabilities will calculate themselves, and let me tell you, it will be a slaughter even of the massive air assault if one comes down to it. And of course, the moment if we do imagine any first Tomahawk or JASSM begins to fly towards Russia, and it will be obviously detected, then, well, guess what? United States has many air and other kind of bases around the world. Well, guess what? Things will fly back, and those will be very serious. And neither United States nor NATO as a whole and its European part have a viable, effective air defense which can stop it. So, in this case, it's more than just some separate their service type operation that, yeah, let's launch, 500 F-16 and see what they're gonna do. No, they're gonna do a very simple way, basically. Practically every airfield with everything on it will be annihilated. And then, of course, those which will be able to break through, I don't know how many of them, out for 500, 20, 30, to do anything about that, they will have nothing, nowhere to return to. So, and this is the issue, which is the tactical issue too. And I might make the presentation on this, and also I might make the review of this kaputted Russian airspace industry. This is difficult to explain to some guy from Bulgaria who saw some Sheffield, which is a shithole, by the way, and suddenly he begins to think that he knows something. He doesn't. He wouldn't be allowed anywhere near serious manufacturing, let alone military parts of Russia. He never held any kind of the serious clearance. He doesn't understand how it all works, let alone he doesn't understand how technologically it works. And concluded, I will give you example. I have nothing against the people with the computer science degree. It's a very important degree. It's extremely important. But just to give you an example how people do not understand their own limitations. Steve Wozniak, the real genius behind Apple, not this guy, what's his name, who was selling this overpriced crap, but no, Steve Wozniak, who himself is legitimate, very good, actually, computer science and electronics engineer. He visited Russia a few years back, 5, 6 years ago, and he was giving a lecture into one of the universities. And he's outstanding electronics and computer engineer, Steve Wozniak. Make no mistake, outstanding guy. But he started to talk about space travel. And he was telling this to the nation which pioneered space travel. And he was telling that, no, we cannot, as humanity, basically fly outside the low Earth orbit, beyond the orbit of Moon, because we're going to be all fried by the radiation, and so we have to stay on land and do nothing about it. And the audience there in Russia, which of course brought up in a very different culture, they were absolutely astonished when this guy was talking about this and giving his predictions for the future. Well, in reality, while nobody denies there is a radiation, it's deadly, there are issues such as the life support and screenings for that specific issue. And I can always also remind you the words of the great Buzz Aldrin, legendary Buzz Aldrin, the second man who stepped on the moon, American astronaut, who stated that when we were on the moon, we thought by 2020 we will be flying to Mars. What we got instead, we got Facebook and TikTok. And this is almost a quote. So, and difficult to disagree with him. And the whole thing here is, and my point, please let computer scientists deal with the computer science. Let not them go into things, especially at a very young age. And Mr. Dobrev is very young kid. Into some things they have no clue about, and they try to make career out of spreading BS, as many people sadly in media, including on YouTube, are trying to make by selling all kind of the pseudo military, pseudo technological bullshit. So I'm trying to avoid it as much as possible. And so this was my talk to you guys today. And as always, those who like what I do, please subscribe to my channel, and please support me on both Patreon or Buy Me a Coffee. And I really appreciate your support and support of my wonderful patrons. And this is it for today, guys. And I'll be talking to you probably by the end of the week, maybe Saturday. So have a nice rest of the week. And unless something really dramatic happens, I'll see you then. Bye-bye.